The Colorado Buffaloes are fresh off of their second bye week of the season. You know what that means. No more rest till the offseason. But luckily for them, that's not too far down the road. They lost their bowl eligibility to West Virginia in Morgantown 2 weeks ago. And now they're off the bye week, hoping to play spoiler against the freshly ranked Arizona State Sun Devils. So you are watching SBS Football Live. We're going to get into all that in just a moment. I'm Liam Howard alongside Aditya Markham, Shane Holcomb, and then joining the show for the first time, Jake Chow, our new host on with us today. We're just going to get right into it. We're going to start off with West Virginia, getting into the bad, the ugly, and the worst. Shane, what disappointed you about this third straight loss?
Well, once again, Liam, it's the Buffs shooting themselves in the foot, right? Life behind the chains was the story, especially in the first half of this game, guys. The first few offensive drives, this team just had a lot of time and a lot of yardage to gain after not really doing much on first and second down. On third down, the Buffs only went 5 for 17 on those conversions, guys. And that's just not going to be good enough in any game, but especially on the road in conference play, especially considering, right, that's a freshman quarterback in his first true start in Juju Lewis. That's not a really good position to put him in.
Absolutely not. And we're going to get a little bit into it later, but the offensive line not keeping him upright either. Overall, just a bad situation for his debut. Jake, what did you take away from it?
I was really disappointed in the first half offense. It's felt like Coach Prime's first half offense has been a little hot and cold this season. I think it was ice cold in the first half. I mean, one turnover, a fumble, a safety. It just looked ugly. 3 punts. Man, I wish I saw a little bit more, but they turned it on in the second half. I was a little encouraged, and I know we'll get to that a little bit.
And that fourth quarter offense ended up being pretty bad as well, comparable to that first quarter. No touchdowns in either of those, the first and last quarter of the game. Aditya, what did you take away?
I would say in the game, I think it was the consistency on offense that there was a lack of. The O-line couldn't protect Juju to give enough time to even make plays. And even when there was a set plan, they couldn't execute it because there was no time for Julian Lewis to throw the ball to his respective receivers. And I believe that this is something that the Buffs need to work on as a team, not just a single player.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to focus on the offensive line. The offensive line was porous in this game. Of course, no Jordan Seaton. That's obviously that was the given in that game. But the biggest issue, 7 sacks for the freshman quarterback. That is a terrible, terrible thing when you have a young kid making his debut, needing to build up that confidence. You cannot have him on the ground that consistently. And I mean, in the press conference on Wednesday, it was I'm trying to remember who was speaking in the press conference. Yaya Atia. He was speaking in the press conference this week, and he said that while Jordan Seaton's absence was felt, it wasn't like detrimental, which I thought was a really interesting assessment of how that game went. So overall, they got to get him back, and they have to protect Julian Lewis. But this was a closer game, much closer than the first two before it. Shane, we'll start with you. What impressed you in the loss?
Well, I don't know if my eyes were deceiving me, guys, but this Colorado defense forced some turnovers, right? I mean, the front seven caused some havoc. Another quarterback who's a freshman on the other side of things in Scotty Fox Jr., right? And again, this team only had 8 takeaways all season, right, before this past game. And they had, I think, 3 in this one, right? So that's something to build off of. You have 2 games left. And again, that defense has not looked disruptive all season long. So this is a little bit of an encouraging sign.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that they can build on moving forward as well. You can't really get this thing started unless you've got your defense playing well. So now they've got that part rolling. Jake, do you think that they are going to build off that, or did you see something else?
I think they're going to build off it a little bit, but I really liked the offensive play calling. Pat Shermer's out of the offense now, and I think it kind of looked up, especially with their freshman quarterback, Julian Lewis. 36 carries for the run-heavy Buffs. It feels like 6 different carriers. But then it was 22 passes as well. It was 22 completions to 8 different receivers. And it wasn't just one reception, feed to Marion Miller. It was 6 different guys had 2 or more receptions. So he spread out the ball. I love the play calling. And I love the decision-making from Julian Lewis.
Oh, absolutely. A lot of talent in that offense as well. Great to see it being used. Aditya, what did you take away from it?
I believe it had to be Juju in his first college start. 18 years old, very impressive being thrown in Big 12 football. He showed poise and made throws like a seasoned vet, like Shador, his mentor, and a lot of maturity, and he didn't seem to get disarrayed by the bright lights.
Yeah, absolutely. He stepped up to the occasion. I'm actually going to focus on his number one target. That's Amari Miller. Once again, cementing himself as the top receiver now and moving forward for the Colorado Buffaloes. He's going to be key for them to keep this season and going into next, especially to mentor that young receiver group. And we're going to talk about them a little bit later, but this is a guy I think that if he can stay healthy, we could see his name called first round of the NFL draft next season. But again, he's got to put together that full season of production. Can't have any incidents like when he's getting sat against Utah for showing up late after the bye week. Can't have anything like that. Injuries are a little out of the control, but you gotta like what you're seeing out of Amari and Miller if you are this Buffs coaching staff. Speaking about that young core, though, this is a core that we've seen shine. As you mentioned, all those different receivers being targeted. Freshmen were a huge part of that. If this Buffs team can keep the young core across the board together, Shane, do you think that the future is bright in Boulder?
Well, I play a lot of golf myself, Liam, and I can't tell you how nicely you teed me up there, right, to talk about a guy in Amari and Miller, right? This is a wideout you mentioned has had so many bright spots in the season where there hasn't been that many for this Colorado team. But also, I want to give some love to Joseph Williams, right? This is a guy who's come in from Tulsa. It's his first season in Colorado. He has more years of eligibility, unlike some other people that came in this season, the transfer portal. Look, it seems like these guys have a connection with Juju Lewis, especially. There hasn't been a huge sample size, but deep threat options can really be the make or break difference in winning a lot of games next season.
Yeah, absolutely. And that the youth in the receiving core is where it starts, but it expands on beyond there. Jake, what do you think?
Yeah, I think you mentioned it, Shane. It really depends on Julian Lewis. If he stays, I think the connection will continue to build. But what I'm worried about is if he plays too well against ASU, is he going to leave? Is he going to jump in the portal and go to USC like he committed to originally? I don't know. I'm a little worried about it, but it depends on Juju. That is the key to keeping the young core and keeping that energy and that magic.
And he proved himself as the franchise, no doubt about that. Aditya, how do you think that they're going to keep building around him as they move forward?
If Coach Prime can find ways to keep this core together, obviously they need to find ways to build chemistry. Obviously, with Shador and Travis, their first season they didn't do as well, but the second season they did much better. It's just chemistry and gelling together. So if this team can stay together for another season and make some noise, there's no telling what noise they can make in the Big 12 next season.
Absolutely. And I think that I got to go off on a little tangent. I apologize, but people calling for Coach Prime's head after the performances that he has had lately, and overall just sad to see, because I think that you look at where he's taken this program from 1-11 the year before he shows up and eventually is able to take him to a bowl game, selling out the stadium. Overall, that is a much improved Colorado football team, and the future is looking bright. The future is looking bright, in my opinion. I think the panic is out of control for Dion, and he's built a young core here that he can continue to develop in the future. I am optimistic for the Buffaloes moving forward. But next, we're going to look at the future and the Arizona State preview. That is going to be this Saturday. Arizona State coming to play at a very cold Folsom Field. Earlier in the week, predicted 38 degrees at kickoff. Now that's moved to later in the game. It's going to get to that temperature. It's going to be a little warmer, around 40 degrees at kickoff. But do you think that this team from hot Tempe is going to come and play well in the freezing cold temperatures of Boulder?
Well, recently I almost forgotten that we're in the month of November, guys, because it's been quite sunny here in Boulder. But like you said, it's going to be a little chillier. If anything, though, I kind of think it plays into this Arizona State strengths in this team, right?
Yeah.
They can run the football really well. Obviously, we'll talk about Jeb Sims' mobility later. But, guys, let's not forget about Raleek Brown, who's also a major threat on the ground. I mentioned Jeff Sims. You want to hear a crazy stat? He has more rushing yards this season. He hasn't started all year. He's got more rushing yards this season than CU's lead back, Michael Welch, has played in the entirety of the season. So I think this cold weather could actually play into the Sun Devils' hands. But again, I'm almost like, it doesn't feel like November right now. It might on Saturday, though.
Yeah, absolutely. This is going to be where the weather really starts to shift, and Arizona State's going to have to be prepared for that. Jake, I know you want to talk a little bit about their game that they had against Iowa State. Do you think that it's going to overall affect them in this game?
No, I think being from Tempe, it's November. It's football weather, right? And so I think football is made for the cold, and playing in Ames earlier this season where the temperatures hovered around, granted a little higher around that 50-degree range. I think 10 degrees doesn't make a difference. I don't think so. I think Arizona State will be just fine. I don't think the weather will play that much of a difference.
And with a mobile quarterback, that's at least something that they can benefit with relying on. So huge there to have him. Aditya, what do you think?
I don't think it'll hurt ASU. It'll benefit them because I feel like ASU's game works better when they can control the pace of the ball and they can control the other team. and they want to run the ball and wear the Buffs down. And since it's going to be cold, it's great football weather. It should be a great game.
Yeah, absolutely. I personally, I'm going to go on the opposite end of it. I think that this is going to play a little bit of a factor. You got a team that is practicing every day in 70-degree weather at the coldest, and this is a huge drop, a huge adjustment that they're having to make. Now, they did play in that 48-degree weather game in Ames, like you mentioned, Jake, but this is still a bigger drop, and that wind chill can get up there when you're playing a game in Folsom Field. So while it won't be the deciding factor in the game, I could see it affecting the game, especially if Arizona State's in a spot where they have to pass the ball, and Jeff Sims might not be working in the run game. I'm sure the Buffs are scouting that during the bye week. So overall, that's something that could eventually, I think, could affect this game. But moving forward, let's look at Julian Lewis a little bit more. Talked about his game against West Virginia. Now he's going to be playing a ranked team. How do you think he adjusts to the higher level of competition?
Well, I don't think there's too much separation, guys, in the Mountaineers and Arizona State's passing defense specifically. Listen, this is a guy who, again, true road start, right? For the first time. What did he go out and do? He had a passer rating of 153. You know what that makes him? The best quarterback in the Big 12 during that week. If anything, I think he should be more comfortable in this Folsom Field atmosphere. I think he should look probably better in his second start. Listen, I know ASU brings him a little bit more pedigree than West Virginia when it comes to, plaudits and whatnot. But this is a guy who I think can take those keys and run with it.
And absolutely. And we've mentioned it a bunch as well, though. That offensive line is going to be a huge part of it. Jake, do you think that they're going to be able to get the job done for him?
I hope so. I mean, it depends on how well Julian Lewis's performance is, depends on how well the O-line does. And what I'd say is really have faith, but be patient. He's an 18-year-old true freshman. He's supposed to be a senior in high school right now. Be patient. He's the guy. We know it. But give him his flowers where it's due, but don't call for his head if he throws 3 picks.
And absolutely. And he's shown that poise as a pocket passer, but of course, cold weather, like we've mentioned, and playing against a ranked team, can't rush him too quickly. Adidia, how do you think that he is going to perform?
I believe it'll be more the same from last week, like against the Mountaineers. He's not going to become a Heisman in 2 weeks, but he's not going to also crash and burn. He's still a good quarterback. He'll keep the offense steady, but I think with help from the CU offense, they can make some good advances and possibly beat them.
I think if they are going to pull out a win in this game, he's going to have an incredible performance. He's going to have to overcome that weather. And I think that throwing the ball is going to be a little harder in that sense, but you're facing a middle-of-the-pack defense in the Big 12. Arizona State is not this powerhouse that you've seen from the likes of a Texas Tech or a BYU. They are a team that defense has really been their Achilles heel this season. So that's something that he can capitalize on. I think it's going to come down to that poise. And like you mentioned, that offensive line is going to play a huge role in his success. Overall, looking at the defense now for Colorado, we mentioned Arizona State's defense. We got to look at how Colorado's defense is going to match up with Arizona State. How much faith do you have that for the Buffs to stop this Arizona State offense, but led by their backup quarterback?
So this is something I probably wouldn't have thought I would have said a couple months ago. But guys, I'm more scared for Colorado that they're going to be going up against Jeff Sims and not Sam Levitt. That might sound like a crazy thing to say, but again, we talked about his dual threat ability. That's something that's given this defense plenty of fits so far this season. Haynes King, Bear Bachmeyer, Byard Flakion, all went for over 100 yards on the ground. And those are quarterbacks, right? These are not running backs. These guys can make plays with their legs, and that's what makes them such a threat to this Colorado offense, right? It seemed like the Buffaloes pretty much launch-padded Haynes King's Heisman campaign this season in Week 1. Now, obviously, I'm not going to put Jeff Sims in that conversation right now, but I am concerned because this is a high profile when it comes to running the football, right? They will give this guy 30 carries in that game. I know you tell a quarterback, you want to run the ball 30 times. Jeff Sims welcomes that. I am a little bit nervous because, again, we've seen time and time again that, once, against Haynes King, okay, maybe they can improve over the season. We've seen it not once, not twice, but 3 times, guys.
And absolutely, when you're the Colorado Buffaloes defense and allowing Connor Wigman to get his career high in rushing yards, that is certainly concerning, and adjustments will have to be made. The bye week, though, does play into it. They didn't do well on adjustments the last bye week they had. Hopefully they can learn from it if you're the Buffs. But, Jake, do you think that they're going to while Jeff Sims is on the rise?
No, it concerns me. And really what I've been looking at is Sims has only gotten better this year. And it's not just been on the ground, it's been through the air as well. So even if the Buffs can put a QB spy on Sims, can he throw the ball? And he's proven that throughout the season, yes, he can, and he's getting better every week. It scares me a little bit, not just the dual threat, just the ground game, but the air game, dual threat of Sims. It worries me.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that the Buffaloes are going to have to – it's going to force them to thump at least a little bit if you're the Colorado Buffaloes defense. Aditya, do you think that they're going to get it done, or is Sims going to have his way with this defense?
I think Sims will unfortunately run over the Buffs defense. Obviously, the Buffs defense has not been very good against mobile quarterbacks in the season, let alone previous seasons. If when the play breaks down, he can and will be able to run around the field, around the CU defense. And if the Buffs don't find a way to contain him, it's going to be a very long night for them.
Guys, I got to be honest. We got to look at history here. Jeff Sims has done this before. He's played at Folsom Field with Nebraska, and in that game, 9 of 15 with no touchdowns, 1 interception against arguably a worse defense. That defense allowed 34.83 points per game that season. This defense, 30 points per game. That defense was, aside from Travis Hunter, a worse overall unit that he was playing against. I gotta look at the optimistic side of that and think that if you're the CU coaching staff, you've seen this guy before, you're able to limit him last time. What did you do? What can you repeat?
One difference though is, right, Liam, is Jeff Sims wasn't throwing the ball to Jordan Tyson last time.
Good point.
I know he's injured. We'll see what his status is like for Saturday. I know it's something we didn't mention earlier, but that's someone who I'm really scared of. That could be awesome. Talk about a deep ball threat. He might be the best receiver in the country.
Yeah, and that will be huge. And one other thing I do want to touch on from that game against when he was playing with Nebraska, he had 67 yards rushing in that game, and 57 of those came on one run, I will add. It was on one run, and other than that, averaged just over 1 yard per carry for the rest of that game. So they know how to limit him. Can they repeat it is the question. And like you mentioned, Jordan Tyson in that offense.
That's a cheeky stat you put in there.
It is, isn't it? Well, moving on, we're going to go to the Big 12. We're going to zoom out now and take a look around the Big 12. And we're going to start it off with the winding down portion of the season. As we mentioned earlier, Arizona State now ranked in the college football playoff top 25, but there are a few other Big 12 teams that are climbing those rankings even higher. Can the Big 12 sneak 2 teams into the college football playoff this season?
I think yes, but there's got to be some chaos in there, right? Somewhere. It's weird because they've got these 3, front runners when it comes to BYU, Texas Tech, and Utah, right? But only 2 of them can make the conference championship game. Right now, it looks like that's going to be Texas Tech and Utah. But call me crazy, I think Utah still has a chance to get an at-large berth in this dance. They're ranked number 11 or number 12 right now, I think it's Knight's rankings. And that's a team that, again, has some quality talent, obviously is coached well. It's tough when I see Utah's schedule, though, guys. I don't really know where the quality wins are going to come from them when it comes to an at-large berth. But for the Big 12's sake, this would be, Christmas come early for them because they've had a really bounce-back season, in my opinion. They got a lot of slack last year when it comes to Arizona State being that conference's representative after not having the best regular season. But, you're talking about the Texas Tech team who could compete for a national championship. That's certainly a little bit of an improvement from last year.
Absolutely, but it doesn't just depend on what happens in the Big 12. It's going to branch out past that as well. Jake, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, you mentioned it. I think it depends on the ACC. If Duke wins that bid, I think the ACC's all the way out. Texas Tech and BYU get in are my picks. It depends on the ACC. Don't like Duke at all. 2 Big 12 teams if Duke wins it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that ACC conference is all over the place right now. But the Big 12 has a lot of competition of its own, a very deep conference. Aditya, do you think that its depth gets multiple teams in?
I would say BYU has its spot locked either as an at-large or automatic qualifier through the Big 12 championship. But if I was choosing another team, I would say Utah. Devin Dapierre, Bert Ficklin, great quarterbacks. I feel like if I was on the committee, then I would vote for the Utes to get the second bid if it was going to be that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm in the boat of this can absolutely happen. And dare I say, 3 teams get in? We're looking at that as a real possibility right now. The top 25 rankings just came out, and I believe is Utah 12? Are they 12 right now or 13?
Yeah, 12, yeah.
So they are just on that fringe spot right there. They win out. Even if they don't win the conference championship they're in. And then the committee has made a very big point of saying, if you play your conference championship game and lose, you're not getting penalized and you're not going to lose out of your spot in the college football playoff because you played your conference championship game. So say both of these teams win out, they both go to the Big 12 championship, Utah wins out and doesn't make it to the Big 12 championship, there could even be 3, I dare say. But looking at more Big 12 programs, what Big 12 program has the brightest future moving forward beyond this season and this college football play?
Well, I think today we all know it starts with that connection between a coach and its quarterback, right? And I'm going to go back to Utah. I talked about him earlier. It's going to be the second year of Devon Dampier leading this offense. We'll see. I mean, Byron Ficklin seems like quite the deputy. Can they even keep him around as a backup? That's going to be my question for the future, because some programs might want him as their starter. But again, I still think Kyle Whittingham, I know there's a lot of talk about Kenny right now, but I think Kyle Whittingham has been the best coach in this conference over the span of the past few years. Stability, though, guys. This is the word I want to mention. When it comes to the Big 12 right now, there's been a lot of parity. What has remained, though, is Utah fighting for the conference championships each and every year. A few Rose Bowl appearances before obviously the destruction of the Pac-12. But you talk about a 10-win program, 3 of the past 7 years in Utah. That's stability, and that's really valuable to have, especially in today's landscape.
It's a good program that knows how to win, but not the only program in that state that knows how to do that and has built a formula. Jake, who's the other team?
Yeah, give me the other Utah team, BYU. Time and time again, teams and schools have proven that when their football team can recruit, their basketball team can recruit. And when their basketball team can recruit, their football team can recruit. And that men's basketball team is fun to watch with AJ Devanza. We'll get to him a little bit later in the program. But when the basketball team can get those high-level prospects, so can the football team. I think BYU has the brightest outlook in the Big 12.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a program that's trending up not only this season, but in the future. But I know that you're staying in that state. Which of the two are you going with?
For sure, Utah. Recruiting well, physical, consistent, and they've shown multiple times throughout the seasons that they can compete with the top dogs in the college football landscape itself. And long-term and identity matter, and they've showed that they've built a foundation for sustainable success.
I'm going to switch it up a little bit here. I'm going to talk about Texas Tech, currently leading the Big 12 and looking at a college football playoff berth. And this is the type of season, fellas, that can absolutely jolt a program and build a program moving forward. I know Patrick Mahomes is funneling tons of money in there, but they got that oil money flowing too, and that's just going to keep on coming in. They're going to keep recruiting well. Will Hammond showed that he is ready to take over this team whenever it is his turn. Of course, going to have to fight that injury bug. But if he can stay on the field, he's showing a bright future. I think they're going to keep attacking the transfer portal like they did this past offseason. They're going to keep bringing in lots of talent every year. Texas Tech, look out for them to run this new look Big 12 for a little while, in my opinion. But let's get to our fun segment now. This is where we get to just have a blast with some very obscure scenarios. So we're going to go with maybe our most obscure one just yet. Colorado, of course, lots of holes on this team. What is one player from any sport other than football in the Big 12 that you would add to this Colorado team to hopefully turn a corner to end this season?
Well, thanks to my Bible study, guys, earlier tonight, I had this debate already with some of my best friends, and we talked about Bangor Dak, the 7-foot center for Colorado basketball. Let's keep it here on the Boulder campus. Put that guy out wide at tight end. I know he made some jokes. He might not last many snaps, but I will say people don't give him as much credit as he deserves for his agility, his frame, especially. That's more impressive, right? He's 7 foot, and he's still very quick. You see him on the basketball court doing Euro steps, dunking with authority. I don't think, guys, he would ever lose a deep ball. You just throw the guy the ball in the air, and he goes and grabs it, right? And I think that would be very entertaining. Maybe we'll get him in the spring game action later this year.
I mean, a Bangor Dak fade route to the back corner of the end zone would feed families for generations. I would absolutely love to see it. I know that you are wanting to stay in the basketball lane as well, though. Who are you going with?
Yeah, give me JT Toppin at wide receiver. I think he has the frame. His frame is filled out as well. And it feels like his hands are just magnets to balls. Why not be a football as well? He can run some routes. I believe it. It was that speed, different kind of skill set. He has the size. JT Toppin at wide receiver.
Yeah, that's an athlete right there. That is that. You look at that man. You look at the build over there as well. 6'9", 230 pounds, averaging 24.3 points per game. That is the definition of an athlete. But I know you're once again keeping it in the basketball lane, and you've got one of the most up and coming athletes in the country right now. Who do you got?
I mean, as a Boston man, AJ DeBonsta, 6'11", unbelievably athletic, freak of nature. Imagine Travis Hunter on AJ DeBonsta. I would not want to see that. Basically a future NBA forward on a football field. And man, it's unrealistic, but it would be so fun to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's even got a bit stockier of a frame than Dak has. Not quite the height, or and just a little bit under the wingspan, but that agility is going to play into that if you were in that situation. I'm going to step away from the basketball side of things. I'm going to look at younger Bastida. He is a wrestler from Iowa State. He won the Big 12 championship last season. Put him at middle linebacker. This defense needs some thump. That's a dude who's going to give you some thump. That is younger Bastida. He's 285 pounds, 2022 All-American. As I mentioned, the Big 12 champion in 2024. He defeated a guy named Wyatt Hendrickson in 2023, played at Air Force at the time, or wrestled at Air Force at the time, and then ended up going on to wrestle in the Big 12 and actually won a Big 12 championship alongside Bastida the following year. But Hendrickson's a guy who beat a familiar name, Gable Steveson, the gold medalist for the United States. So that right there is a one-stop shop to a gold medalist victory. And I would be interested to see that matchup if there was ever the time of day. But that is a addition that this defense would absolutely love to have at this point in the season. So let's move forward now to our pick'ems. We're going to take a look at the Big 12 this week, and we're going to predict who is coming out on top. We're going to start it off with a huge game. BYU on the road at Cincinnati. Who do you think?
Well, I trusted BYU a couple weeks ago when they played Texas Tech, and they let me down a little bit, but I still have a lot of faith in this team, guys. Number 11 right now in the polls, which again, you could lose that Big 12 championship game and maybe have an argument. I think they could surprise some people, though, and maybe beat Texas Tech in a rematch. I trust them in this spot. Listen, I know they have to go to Ohio, too, on the road, but this Cincinnati team, they were rolling a few weeks ago. Back-to-back losses against Texas Tech. The one that disappointed me, though, more, guys, was the U of A one last weekend. I have BYU by 10 points in this one.
Yeah, and Cincinnati certainly trending down while BYU is trending the opposite way. Jake, do you think that they pull it off?
No, I think BYU's the team. I said that they have the brightest future in the Big 12, and I think that this is another stepping stone to a Big 12 championship. Give me BYU by 2 possessions.
Yeah, absolutely. And Aditya, are you keeping this the same, or is no one saving the graphic today?
I mean, I love Brendan Sorsby, but BYU is going to take it. They've just been too consistent, and their physicality will dominate Cincinnati.
Yeah, I'm not going to save it either, folks. I'm going to go with BYU to defeat Cincinnati. Look, they've rebounded incredibly well from that Texas Tech loss. Texas Tech is an incredibly difficult team, and while it wasn't the close game that most people were expecting, that's again, that says more about Texas Tech than I think it does about BYU. They stifled a tough offense in TCU and had some drama going on the sidelines between their quarterback and receiver for the Horned Frogs. So, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But that if you can force that type of just sort of a break between these two incredible players on that offense, that's how you know you've got a good defensive unit, and I think that they're going to give Cincinnati problems this weekend. But next, we'll look at Baylor taking on Arizona. Arizona, hot right now. Do you think that they're picking up another win?
I do, and it's because, again, you talked about they've been impressive. They just won the road and beat Cincinnati last weekend. And listen, guys, I think Baylor looks like a shell of themselves against Utah. I'm not saying Utah is not a dominant team. I think they're one of the best in the conference. But Baylor was out of it, right? I mean, I think that U of A stays hot here. I like Arizona to win by a touchdown. I will say, though, these two offenses are pretty high firepower. I think this could be a lower scoring game than people expect. Big 12 defense. 2 words I don't think I would say a lot, but this year it's been more prevalent than ever before.
It has, certainly, and Baylor has shown flashes on both sides of the ball. Jake, do you think it's going to be enough to get it done?
Nope. I think Baylor. I'm taking Arizona mostly because of Baylor. I think Baylor is cold. I think that they're not the type of team to go up with Arizona. Arizona matches up really well with them. Give me a Wildcats.
A lot of talent on Baylor, a lot of talent on Arizona, but Arizona has certainly had the tide rolling for that talent so far. Aditya, do you think it keeps going?
Yeah, for sure. Arizona, Noah Fafita, better quarterback play. Ishmael Mahdi, better offense in that category, and they're trending upward, as you guys are saying.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's been both sides of the ball, really, for Arizona. They have absolutely delivered in all facets of the game. I think that a win in this game says more about Arizona than it does Baylor. Obviously, Baylor not quite living up to some people's expectations this season. But Arizona, man, they are trending up right now. Fafita's playing lights out. And, of course, that win over Cincinnati, that is no pushover team at all and says a lot about their defense, too. They can show up and play ball. So Arizona, I think, is going to close this one out against Baylor. But now, mentioning TCU earlier, let's see their game against Houston. They're going to be on the road playing at a tough Houston team. What do you think? Who do you think's emerging with the victory in this game?
Well, this Houston team just simply won't go away, right? And I think they're on track to potentially get their first 10-win season as part of the Big 12 Conference, guys. TCU really disappointed me a few weeks back. They lost to an Iowa State team that looks like they pretty much blew it up on the season, right? They kind of caved it in, and they were still able to beat that TCU squad. So, again, Willie Fritz has done some great things at Houston. I like them to stay on track. And hear me out. Let's send Houston to the Pop-Tart Bowl. Let's get them to that game. They might be one of the better bowl representatives outside the Big 12, especially if they get multiple teams in the playoff. And that's great for college football because they're in a state where people love football, and Houston deserves to be back at the mountaintop because it's a team that obviously gets a lot of plaudits for their basketball team, and obviously, that's rightly so. But I think, call me crazy, Houston could end the year 10-2, which is something I was not going to say a couple weeks back. I was down in this team, and they just keep proving me wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. And like Jake said, a team that can build a good basketball program and a good football program, that is a good athletic department. Jake, do you think that good athletic department is emerging victorious over TCU?
I do. I think the upset watch is there, and I went back and forth with this for a while, but Houston is such a fun team. They're fun to watch, and the way that they've rebuilt their program has been just so much fun to watch, and I think going to the Pop-Tart Bowl would be a beautiful cap to a 10-win season, as you mentioned, Shane. Give me Houston.
Yeah, you heard it here first, folks. The Houston to the Pop-Tart Bowl movement has begun on the Week 13 episode of Football Live. Don't let anyone else tell you anything different. Aditya, you changing the graphic up?
Yeah.
Hey.
Iowa State. I love – oh, we're not. We're Houston. My bad.
Yeah.
Taking TCU.
Okay, still saving the graphic. Yeah. Okay, we're good.
We're taking TCU. Josh Hoover, I feel they match up better, and I trust them more in a tight game against the Cougars.
You know what? I'm right with you on that. I like TCU in this game. I think that TCU's offense is going to rebound. Josh Hoover and Eric McAllister getting into an argument on the sideline, some choice words from Hoover directed at McAllister in that BYU game, but they made amends after that. That shows a great bond between a receiver and a quarterback, and those are two incredibly talented individuals. I think that offense is desperately looking to rebound, and this is the game where they are going to do that. So give me TCU over Houston. Next, we're looking at Kansas taking on Iowa State. Who do you got in this one?
Well, guys, I only have one more time this season to pick Jalen Daniels on the show this year. And listen, I've actually gone against him in the past. I know you have a love for him, Liam. But I'm just going to pick the Jayhawks purely for the vibes. I know they're going on the road. Iowa State's a tough place to play. But like I said earlier, I think they've kind of packed it on this season. Dare I say, Matt Campbell might be the next head coach at one Pennsylvania State University when it comes to next fall. I think his name should be put out there more because he's done a great job in Ames. With all that being said, though, give me the Jayhawks.
Wow. So taking the upset, Jake, you going the same way?
I'm not. Give me Iowa State. I do agree. They've looked a little lackluster at times this season, but I think that they lock it down against Kansas and some defense that's been a little bit spotty this season. So give me the Cyclones to avoid the upset.
All right. Aditya?
Mentioned before, Iowa State, I love Rocco Becht, my favorite quarterback outside of Julian Lewis in the Big 12, playing at home, physical football, and they look better in the key moments throughout the game.
Yeah, their run offense going to be key, and Rocco Becht is a big part of that when he actually gets moving. You know what? As much as you said, I like Jalen Daniels as much as the next guy, but
you're going against your guy?
I'm waving the white flag on this Kansas team. Outside of him, man, they stink. I can't even lie. Kansas just does not have the defense. Flat out, plain and simple, they cannot stop Iowa State's run offense. I just don't think there's a chance of that. And the pass coverage is weak too. They have Rocco Becht is throwing the ball. They're gonna do that at will as well. I think overall, Sama and Hansen, they're gonna run all over this defense. Dominique Orange, big citrus, is finally gonna get his first sack of the season. Been a bit of a disappointing year for him, but a great athlete for that Iowa State defense. And I think that they are going to squash Kansas this weekend. But that leads us to our feature game. The Arizona State Sun Devils, now ranked number 25 in the country, coming to Boulder to play the Buffaloes at Folsom. Shane, who do you got?
Well, guys, I actually have a lot of friends at Arizona State that I want to shout out here before. I had the pleasure to get to know the sports bureau, Cronkite, Professor Paula there. She's incredible. My best friend goes there, Rome. So shout out to those guys if you're watching. But I digress. We're talking about the football game here. And the reality is the Sun Devils have so much more to play for than Colorado. I get it. They want to spoil that season. But let's take a step back and look at the reality. Colorado is losers of 3-4 in a row, right? This Sun Devils team is better coached. They're more cohesive. They're stronger on both lines of the scrimmage, and the Buffs. And again, I don't think this means Julian Lewis has a bad game. I'm just concerned for this defense and trying to stop Arizona State's rushing attack. I think the visitors escape with a 7-point win, guys. Call me a hater, but at the same time, until this team wins a game, it's hard to put the Buffalo up on that graphic. It's so lonely up there. And I want to put it up there, but I can't. I'll let you be there.
Have you picked Colorado this year?
No, I haven't.
Smart man. Jake, how about you?
I am going to change the tune a little bit, Shane.
Hey!
I do agree with you that ASU is better coached, they have better talent, and they have the more cohesive unit. But if there's one thing I know about CU football, it's that it's so inconsistent, they have to pull up an upset win. Give me the Buffs.
And it certainly looked like Colorado was trending in this direction when Iowa State came to town, but that's a different topic, didn't you?
I'm going to change the graphic once more. Taking ASU, as I mentioned before, the mobile QB run defense is genuinely Swiss cheese. And it should concern a lot of people. So I think ASU takes it.
It's tough to watch. I can't lie. And usually I start these things off negatively for Colorado. I look at the negative first, but I'm not going to do that today. They got the home field advantage. They got the weather advantage. Quarterback got new life there, but they are a shell of their former selves, if there even was that, to be totally honest with you. Something happened during that bye week before the Utah game, and this team has not looked anywhere close to the same since. Now we're going on 24 straight days of misery, losing, blowouts, and West Virginia, although not a blowout, a close loss, which is arguably worse, a game that they could have won but didn't. Even without Leavitt, Sun Devils have been winning, and they've been doing it with Jeff Sims. Sam Leavitt is going to be gone in the future, and now they're looking at this like this might not be that big of a problem. It was announced that he's looking at the transfer portal, and they're like, we could figure something else out. This team doesn't need him. But they're focused on the future. I'm focused on the past. Jeff Sims has been here already, folks, and he couldn't hit the broadside of a barn when he tried to throw a football. It's 38 degrees. Now try throwing it then. Jeff Sims will not be able to do it. Arizona State's offense will not be able to do it. Jordan Tyson in his return to Colorado will not be able to do it. Give me the Buffs by 1,000,000 over Arizona State this weekend, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us on SBS Football Live. For Liam, Aditya, Shane, and Jake, thank you all for watching, and you heard it here first.
You.